About a month and a half ago, we released a video detailing our reorganizing of the NFL's divisions. In the comments, there were a lot of suggestions for different divisions and different reasonings, but one in particular caught my attention. A special shout out to Meatball Yarrow 2, who suggested that we simply eliminate divisions entirely, run off two conferences with the top 7 in each conference making the playoffs. This is an idea I want to dive into past just a surface level, interesting, so that's what we're going to do today. While I think this idea is interesting and could end up fixing a lot of issues that I see with the NFL right now, it may also cause new ones. So let's dive right in and kind of walk through what would happen if this were to take place. First, what it would fix. I think a common criticism of the current playoff format is that the 4 seed gets an automatic home game in addition to their automatic playoff spot just for leading their division, but the 4th best division leader in a conference typically is not a particularly strong team. I think rewarding a team that led the worst division with a home playoff game in the wildcard round is not something that I really want to do, especially when a majority of the time that 4th seed is not the 4th best team in the conference. I think giving a better opportunity to teams in strong divisions, think of the Lions, Packers, and Vikings this past year, is more important than giving an 8 and 9 division leader that spot. Another similar proposal I've seen is to get rid of the 1 to 4 seeding based on division leaders and seed strictly on record while still giving division leaders an automatic playoff bid, so an 8 and 9 division leader would then be the 7 seed. While this is also a good suggestion and one that the Lions actually brought up to the league this offseason, I think if you're going to take a half step, you might as well fully jump off and go full reorganizing, especially for a video like this. While that would be the main difference between the current rule set and my new proposal, there would also be one issue to overcome. And after I discuss that, then I'd like to go through and see what would change over the past few seasons with our new rules, if anything. So the issue that I have is regular season matchups. Each team plays its division rivals twice a year, and without that, we'd have to revisit how the schedule would be generated. I'll quickly read through the current rules of schedule creation and then adjust them to no longer rely on divisions existing. So the NFL regular season is 17 games. There are 6 divisional matchups, 4 games against another division's teams in the same conference, 4 games against another division's teams in the other conference, 2 games against teams from the other 2 same conference divisions determined by division ranking from the previous season, and 1 game against a non-conference opponent from a division the team is not scheduled to play, again determined by division ranking from the previous season. This is honestly a bit confusing to follow, and there's a reason that it's not discussed a whole lot, but to make it simple for the purposes of this video, it doesn't really matter what any of that means. Every matchup with the current rules is determined in some capacity by divisions. Every single rule of creating the schedule is now out the window, so it's time for a new set of rules. 17 games is an ugly number, and I'm considering dropping it back down to 16, a much more well-rounded number, but for now, we'll leave it as is, and then as I discuss, I may decide to change it later on. Each conference would be made up of 16 teams, obviously, so 2 conferences, meaning if every team played every conference opponent every year, there would be only 2 non-conference games. And this is where we reach a split in the path. We must choose our route and go down it. Either trying to ensure interconference play is a more common thing, or putting much more emphasis on the Super Bowl being the best of both conferences and not really having any interconference play in the regular season. That is the route I would like to go down. I feel like it makes it a little easier for me to set up a rule set without having to map things between conferences, and also it puts more emphasis on each matchup, meaning just that little bit more, and again, adds more intrigue to the Super Bowl, because it's probably going to be teams you have not seen play in recent years. Back to earlier when I was saying that I might go 17 games, might go 16, I'm actually going to drop it off to 16 games. I mentioned earlier not just taking a half step, fully jumping off the edge, so I'm going to make that executive decision. We're going back to a 16-game season. With this, we can establish a very, very easy to follow set of rules for scheduling. The new NFL regular season would be 16 games. 15 against conference opponents, and 1 against a non-conference opponent determined by conference ranking from the previous season. So the 7th best team in the AFC would play against the 7th best team in the NFC from the previous season, and then also against every single opponent in the AFC. This pays homage to the original rules by keeping in the ranking-determined interconference game while removing divisions to make playoff seeding a bit more fair, and I also think that making things easier to follow is a much better way to get fans more invested in the game as a whole when there's more things that are easier to follow. Now to the part of the video where we recreate the last few playoff trees, but with the new rules. Obviously, not the new scheduling rules. That's kind of something that would have to take effect in future years. But let's get into those past few years of playoffs. Last season, the 2025 playoffs, while the actual teams wouldn't change, the seeding would. On the AFC side, the only actual change would be the home team for the Texans-Chargers wildcard game. The games would stay the exact same, but the Texans would lose their home field advantage, which may cause issues on a redo. So Texans-Chargers, that was played in Houston. Now it would be played in LA. And if that's the case, maybe the Chargers have an edge over the Texans in that one and they actually pull out the win. On the NFC side, the Eagles would play the Rams in the wild card rather than in the divisional round. The Vikings would get a home game versus the Bucks, southern team going up north in wintertime. Maybe the Vikings take that one. And the Commanders would host the Packers, giving an intriguing new matchup with young quarterbacks who are very interesting to watch. So basically everything would change on the NFC side, where not much changed on the AFC side. And that would flip the playoffs on its head and maybe have some different teams making it further in the playoffs. Ultimately, I do think that the Chiefs and Eagles were probably the best teams and would probably still prevail, but it's always interesting to see what might happen or think about what might happen. It's a similar story in 2024, seeding changes, but no real team differences, so I won't really go through that one too much. But we'll get back to the 2023 playoffs after the 2022 season, and this is the heart of why I think this change needs to happen. The Buccaneers were 8-9, the best team in the NFC South. The Lions were 9-8, but they didn't make the playoffs because of that auto bid for division winners. The new bracket would have obviously changes in the AFC as far as seeding goes, but in the NFC, the Bucs wouldn't be in the playoffs at all. The Lions would take their place, but would play the 2-seed 49ers in the wild card. Giants and Cowboys would face each other, and the Vikings would play the Seahawks in Minnesota. Those are all changed matchups and would all make for interesting things happening in that playoff series. I don't think the Lions would have ultimately beat the 2-seed 49ers in the wild card, but switching up the matchups and giving the right teams the right to play, I think is more important than the actual outcomes, which would probably be a similar Super Bowl or a similar first round outcome. While this isn't a perfect solution, I think the way the league could be organized without the use of divisions would be an improvement on what it currently is. I think there's too much emphasis placed on division rivalries, and while it's important to keep historic rivalries intact, I think that's why we keep the conferences separate and don't have much interplay between conferences, because then the Cowboys and Giants would still face off once a year. And some of those issues that cropped up in our reorganizing divisions video, where we just completely threw history and rivals out the window, that wouldn't be as big of a problem here. So as always, let me know any concerns you have with this new organization or anything you agree or disagree with. Again, thank you to Meatball Yarrow too for the idea. And let me know if you prefer this to the division reorganization we did in that other video. Most likely y'all have seen that one. It is our most viewed video to date, so that's why I keep referring back to it. But as always, again, let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Let me know any improvements on my ideas. And again, if you think that this is a better idea than what the league currently has going on, or if you think it's better than reorganizing the divisions. And yeah, that's all I got for y'all today. Drop some thoughts down in the comments below. I am going through and making some videos on some comment-driven thoughts, so if you would like to see your comment featured in a future video, let them fly. And with all of that said, deuces.